I'm honestly super excited about the Lightning Cup today. And honestly, thinking about it, I think this cup is definitely my favorite among the normal cups in this game. I'm not sure if it's like my favorite cup overall because, gonna be honest, there are some cups in the DLC stuff that honestly are super fun as well. But I think just this cup has 3 out of the 4 stages are like on my top, somewhere on like my top 20 list or something like that, just because I think that they're so fun. And honestly, I was thinking about the fact how a lot of the DS stages and 3DS stages from the Mario Kart DS and then Mario Kart 7 stages have, I feel like their reworks for this game are some of the best stages, honestly, because I feel like playing the DS ones, don't get me wrong, it was a lot of fun, and like I've played a decent amount of Mario Kart. I feel like DS specifically probably more than 7, where I would do like all the, like mission modes, and I attempted to 3-star all of them. I don't think I actually ever managed to 3-star all of them, but I have attempted to 3-star all of them, but I've at least completed all the mission mode. That was like some of my favorite little activities to do when I was a kid. So, but I feel like those games just, had great stages, but they were like kind of limited in the hardware department just a tad. And so I feel like the reimagined versions of them, like this stage, TikTok Clock, is a DS stage for Mario Kart DS. But I think it's just done so well, and it's a lot of fun, and I think there's a lot of stages like that honestly just, have the best glow up to speak. In this game, at least. I think, honestly, a lot of the updates that they did on the stages, in my opinion, are pretty good in general. I think there's some N64 stages that I'm kind of not as huge a fan of, but that, could also be my nostalgia biased in a way. Because I think what they did with, like, Calamari Desert is done really well. It makes it a lot more fun to, drive around the train tracks. So I feel like that one and Yoshi Valley and, like, Choco Mountain are all, like, done pretty well. But also the Rainbow Road from N64, which we'll see later in this cup. Also a big reason why I like it so much. But I do feel like there are, little exceptions all the time that it's like, personally, not my favorite overwork. And I think the main reason is just because a lot of times when they do the overworks, especially in like the DLC, I find that they have this like consistent formula of like switching up the path on like the 3rd lap or something, and I don't feel like that's necessarily a bad thing, to kind of mess with the track a little bit, and change it up. But I feel like the Mario Kart Tour maps try and do that a lot, and for some of them, I think it works like decently well. But for a lot of them, I feel like it just does not. And like what it accomplishes, to me personally, is making it like super confusing to go through. And when you make it just like super confusing on what direction to go to, I feel like it's just it kind of, loses its touch a little bit, because it's just like, well, now I'm not, having as much fun. I'm moreover just confused. And I feel like that's kind of an issue with a lot of the tour maps, because I know they're not like as popular as some of them. And I think when they do the formula right, because there's a couple of those tour maps of, like real places that are actually kind of pretty fun. I think like the France one is a good example, and then I believe it's either the Germany one or it might be Australia, one of those two. I feel like is also, done really well, but there's a lot of them that it literally, you look at the map and it looks like a tangled mess of like spaghetti or something, and you're like, I don't even know where to begin on what I'm supposed to do and where I'm supposed to go. But so I feel like you got to be like really careful with kind of the formula, and I think there are some, especially I think N64, just because I'm like so used to it being one way. Oh, excuse me. Sorry, I'm a little congested today. But I think especially because, I'm so used to some N64 tracks being a certain way that it just, in my opinion, I'm just like, man, it's just not as good as it was. But it also kind of sucks because I've talked about this before, but it's like, as much as I love Mario Kart 64, because that's like, that one and the GBA one are the ones I grew up with, I'm like, holy cow, I would probably not go back and play the Grand Prix mode for Mario Kart 64 just because of the awful rubber banding that they have with the CPUs. But honestly, I feel like the highlight nowadays is going back and doing the battle mode with a bunch of people in the same room. It's a nice like family/friend activity. I also find like this is kind of like a little off topic, but in like the same boat is I also find playing like Smash Bros. 64 specifically also jeez, I'm sorry. Oh my goodness, I could not speak there. Probably gonna need a drink of water after this. Holy cow. My like voice is cracking. Sorry. Hopefully my voice is back. But what I was trying to say before I apparently just lost my voice is I was trying to say that I think Smash Bros. 64 is also like one of those, fun like party games to kind of go back to, and I think the main reason is just because I'm gonna be honest, if you played Smash Bros. 64, I feel like there's not as much skill involved as if you were playing like Melee or Ultimate or any of the other ones in between. I feel like they've done a really good job at the series in terms of, making it a lot more important to have a good amount of, skill with the game. But honestly, sometimes it's just fun to go back to like the old classics where literally like it just feels like there's no skill involved, it's just complete chaos. And honestly, I feel like sometimes it just makes it more fun because it's like you never know who's gonna win because it's just absolutely insane. Plus, I don't know if you've heard of this, but there's also like a fan-made like Smash 64 style game called Smash Bros. Remix. That's also really fun because it adds a ton of new stages and adds like a ton more characters, so I feel like it's actually a lot of fun. Kind of spices up the the formula of the original Smash Bros. 64. But I think this race is honestly, or this, like, track, I think is part of the reason why I rank this Lightning Cup so high in my ranking. Because I think the only stage that I'm not, like, the biggest fan of is the Piranha Plant one. However, it's also because I suck at that stage, so, I feel like that might be more of a skill issue than an actual stage issue. But, in my opinion, this is the second best Rainbow Road in the game. I think it's probably not a surprise which one is the first, is at the top of the list, but trust me, we'll get to that eventually. I just really like what they did with the like the 64 format. They kept like the character fireworks, but they reworked the track so it's not as tedious, because if you've played, the original N64 Rainbow Road, that it takes like 4 minutes, and it's like honestly not the best designed in 64, but this one, like, it's really fun. It has a better design. It keeps the chain chomps, which are a big part of the map. I love, like, the train, and, there's still all the fireworks of all the original characters from 64. So I feel like you got Tick-Tock Clock, and then, like, I didn't mention Grimble Volcano very much, but I mean, that's also a fun track for Mario Kart Wii. And then you just kind of finish it off with, Mario Kart 64 rework Rainbow Road, which I feel like is one of the best reworks they've done. And I'm just like, man, I think it's just, in my eyes, it's perfection. They did such a great job on this cup specifically. I love, like, all the stages. But anyway, that's going to be the Lightning Cup. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.